So is the Bitcoin rally over for now? Do we have a head and shoulders top? Let's figure that out today. But first, what an amazing week with the Larsson Line Pro launch. We have hundreds of users after 1 week. Thank you guys for your trust and the incredible reception. I'm so happy you like it. Thank you, everyone. I was nervous on the launch day actually. I worked hard on this for over 1 year and I know you trust me a lot. While I know that it's good and useful, it's easy to blow the first impression if things don't work. It was really exactly like when we were activating a new telecom network and holding our breath while it comes online nationwide. So last Thursday when I opened it, I was sitting here at my desk and my hand holding my freaking Swedish coffee mug was actually shaking. I didn't want to blow it. And it worked. I sat up late that night, but then I do need to sleep a little. And when I rushed up, tired in the morning, helping kids get ready, drinking my coffee from a different coffee mug, I checked my emails on my phone. It was mostly people who couldn't find the password or had general question, but then I saw 2 emails from people that morning asking, are there no Larsson Line flips today? While I was heading out to drop kids at their school. And I stopped and I thought that's curious because there's always been flips every single day for weeks. And I checked and to my horror, I see the flips are gone. The calculation in the backend had been running for 3 weeks like clockwork every night after UTC closed, and that is independent from the users using the service. But of course, the night after the launch, it broke. But it was just a few hours before I saw it, so I dropped the kids and I sat at the bus stop outside kids' school with my laptop on my knees and checked the logs, and sure enough, some fake Pepe coin copy came in with garbled data from an API, which I didn't handle robustly enough, so the calculation stopped. I sweated like a pig. I'm sitting there next to some Swedish auntie fixing the code on the bus stop and uploading a new version, and the flips are back. And I think not so many of you had time to notice. And fortunately, it was a simple fix. So overall, it has worked really, really well, and I am super happy. A lot of you guys have had great suggestions to add, and I have a long list of stuff that I'll add on the roadmap. But I won't actually add everything that I could add, because I want this to be a tool for clarity. As I've said many times on this channel, the challenge with trading isn't so much the analysis, it's execution. It's the ability to stay consistent and actually follow your own analysis, your own plan. And while the discovery of coins that have flipped gold or have flipped blue among this ocean of 10,000 coins is great, that's like the headline feature. But the potentially even more valuable feature is actually the second tab here, where I try to solve the clarity and consistency problem for you, for me, for all of us. That's why I want everything on one page under portfolio. One glance in the morning and I have everything there. Absolute clarity. And even if I don't look, if I'm lazy or distracted that day, there's an alert when a trend has turned in my portfolio, and that's potentially a need for action. I can't miss it. So some requests for new features that I feel add complexity and split things up in different views or something like that, I don't want, because the enemy of clarity is complexity. It's much harder to do something that looks simple, providing instant clarity, than something that's overloaded with information and split views and too much data. This has been the leading principle with Larsson Line and the process from day one. So I'm dividing feature requests in these 2 categories: more clarity or less clarity. Even if less clarity means more information, it's not always what I want. This first week has mainly been to make sure everything is stable, small bug fixes, and make sure people can get in. Small things really. Then I'll start adding features. Another thing that I thought I was clear on, but maybe I wasn't. If you're an existing member and you go in here on Pro, then this is the price within the 30 days for a year. But if you haven't signed up for the course, it's this price. That's a lot more. I don't recommend that. Then I recommend you take the course, and if you calculate, you find that the course and the Larsson Line indicator 2,888 plus the Pro 2,500 is a lot less than than 8,900 during these 30 days. So the only way that this even makes sense is if you hate courses and you're happy to pay extra to skip class. Hopefully clearer now. So, Bitcoin price then. As you know, I've been very bullish since this entry at 17,433, and then very bullish since Larsson Line confirmed the trend reversal at 21k. Then we did run up all the way to the resistance, this major resistance at 30k set from the lower boundary of this channel we were in from 2021 until mid last year. That was the key support then, so many times, and those levels typically become resistance after, because people who maybe bought that support then sat underwater for a long time, they took the chance to exit at the plus minus zero when price reached that level again. Just an example of why technical analysis isn't some hocus pocus, it's people behaving like people do. So hitting resistance isn't concerning in itself, but now it looks like we're actually getting a head and shoulders top pattern. Last Friday I wrote in the Friday TA report that I wasn't selling, and sure enough, that dip that went as low as 25,800 actually became just a wick. Then price reclaimed the support and ran up almost $2,000 to 27,600. But then that didn't really hold. We can argue a little bit of where to put the neckline exactly, but if today closes on this level where we are now and doesn't become a wick similar to last Friday, this is definitely a confirmed neckline break of the head and shoulders pattern. But then we have some other aspects also. So let's do a scoreboard. If today's chart closes here, we definitely have a top pattern in the chart. But then the trend hasn't changed. Larsson Line is still gold. Speaking of absolute clarity, trend is up. Then we have something else I often talk about, DXY or Dollar Strength Index. That has pumped the past couple of days, which is probably the reason Bitcoin has shown some weakness. And while that trend is down, we're now kind of in an uncertain situation. Suddenly it looks like this support might actually hold. On the other hand, we're coming up just at 103, which you can see was a key level here several times and actually was the resistance back in March. Now we're exactly there. If that resistance remains and DXY turns here, we can probably look forward to a pump in Bitcoin and safely clear that neckline. On the other hand, if this breaks through that resistance, well, then probably more downside is in the card for Bitcoin. We don't know that yet, but we can see what will actually play out. Will 103 break out or will it reject? If it's a breakout for DXY, that's bad news for Bitcoin. If it's a rejection for DXY, that's probably good news for Bitcoin. Then we have one other thing. US government bonds, 2-year yield. And here you don't need to know any technical analysis to see what's going on here. We had this level, which was support, then became resistance, and it's still below that level. And when it's been that strong of a resistance, it's maybe more likely that we just get another resistance from here. And if you look at what the market participants think, target rate now is 500 to 525, right? They do think there won't be any more hikes and reduction towards the end of the year. And if we continue into next year, we see more reductions. 2 years from today, 375 to 400, and continued reductions from there. And if this chart goes down, Bitcoin tends to go up. So this chart is a positive argument for Bitcoin's bull case. So if we sum this up, it's somewhat uncertain. Chart, if it closes here, is kind of bad, but the trend is up. If DXY rejects, it's an overwhelmingly positive case, 3-1, but if DXY breaks out, it's actually plus minus 0. So what happens here will be absolute key. On the other hand, so what? The target for this head and shoulders pattern is down here at about 23,800. I wouldn't mind. I still think the major bottom is in. Larsson Line is gold. I would love to buy a quick dip to lower levels and then watch this range here between roughly 25k and roughly 30k for a while. And then I hope to see a breakout and a follow through and a move to much higher levels and eventually all-time high and beyond. I think the Bitcoin narrative is stronger than ever, with the fiat economy in such obvious trouble. I don't think the mess with the ordinals and the taproot changes that in any way or form, but that's a longer video about Bitcoin mining for next week. Since I lightened the load a little at higher levels at 29,200 on the 19th of April, when we seemed to struggle with this resistance, then I hoped to buy that back after we broke through resistance, but then we didn't. So for that reason, I'm not taking any further actions with my investment account today. I consider that front-running this Head and Shoulders price action. Instead, I'm happy to add if we come to these levels. That's an if. Remember, targets don't always play out. If we go in the other direction, upwards, the point where this Head and Shoulders pattern has been invalidated and turns into a bullish signal instead is if we break above the top of the right shoulder. Make sure to subscribe and, of course, check out Larsson Line Pro on ctolarsson.com and click Pro. It's the best thing I've done since 2018 when I came up with the first Larsson Line. Thank you, tack. CTO Larsson out. Hej då!